Hey, we're back with another Sons today. Adam, Eaton, Brian Peterson here. And Brian, first off, man, thanks for hopping in. You're now the most popular UCF post-game podcast host, having pulled double duty this week, working with Bailey on the Pegasus podcast post-game. So first off, thanks for taking some time to hop in and cut it up with me as we look back, I guess, at what was UCF Baylor. I don't even know if that was a thing, but I guess we played the game, Brian. So I guess we got to talk about it.
We were the team was certainly present for a game. I don't know that they played very well, but they were on the field, so they were there.
Well, the benefit of us doing this show, Brian, you and I are talking Sunday night, right? So now we've had a day and a half or so to digest this, right? You've had a chance to listen to post-game pressers and watch some media stuff, see what else happened in college football on Saturday, because obviously that was a noon kick for the Knights, and you saw West Virginia beat Houston, which was a kind of a shocker, Brian. So now that you've had time to let this sink in, here's my question for you. You feel blank about UCF losing 30-3 at Baylor?
I feel the same as I did yesterday. We've had, like you said, 24 hours to kind of digest that game now and see what happened around the league and around college football in general. And while that, let me stop myself. I don't know if I feel better or worse about Houston losing to West Virginia. You can look at it, glass half full, glass half empty. I'm kind of not optimistic. I'm more pessimistic by nature. So I see that, Houston getting beaten up by a West Virginia team that's not very good this season as kind of a bad thing coming into the space game. They're going to be looking for some, looking to rebound against the Knights team that maybe they spell some blood in the water. But I do feel good about the fact that we're in the bounce house finally. Going on the road to Baylor was probably harder than some of us thought it was going to be. I had kind of talked myself into the possibility as the week went on that I felt a little more and more comfortable every day with our chances going into the Baylor game. Their defense isn't very good. And while our offense isn't anything, spectacular, I thought we could put some points on the board and our defense would play a big role in this game and they would keep Baylor and their quarterback, Robertson, to maybe less than their average than they had been able to put up during the season on offense. And it kind of all crumbled from there. Some questionable no calls in the first quarter that let Baylor jump out to an early lead. And I mean, this UCF offense is just not built to come from behind. So it was a long day. If you watch the game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Not a great performance. And now we've got to still find two more wins the remainder of the season here to reach that bowl eligibility number of 6 wins. So I think we're all still eyeing Houston as a potential win if we can come out and play well, and Houston perhaps is rattled from this past week, and Oklahoma State is still on the board as well. You of course still have to go out and win that game, but we'll see where it goes. BYU and Texas Tech both looked pretty strong again this week, and Texas Tech is hosting game day this coming Saturday, so they'll be locked in, I'm sure. But I don't know. Vibes are not the highest after this Baylor game.
Yeah, I know a lot of people get mad when all these post games are kind of negative, right? However, not a lot of positivity here. We'll try to find some maybe later on in the show, sure, Brian. But to stick on Baylor for a second, I think you said something interesting, right? Like as the week went on, you kind of talked yourself into, hey, you know what? We're coming off a bye week. We're getting healthy. On our live show on Thursday night, Craig Smoke came on and basically said, Baylor's terrible. We have all kinds of what we may get the coach fired. Like, and I was like, man, like, all right, maybe we have a chance here. Like, maybe this is going to work out for UCF, right? And I will give this UCF team credit, Brian. Any opportunity they have to squash cocky UCF fan, they step right up, man, because to your point, that's one of them. Like you're looking at this game and you're saying like, all right, maybe this is a way we sneak this one. Maybe we're 5-3. Like maybe we fast track that rebuild, and it all just imploded, Brian. But I agree with you. Like as the week went on, you start hearing stuff. I was like, could we? Bye week? Scott Frost seems okay. We worked on some stuff. Taven's quarterback, and we know it. He's healthy. And then, poof, just a big pile of nothing.
It was a big pile of nothing. I mean, the defense played well enough to keep us in the game, but the offense was just completely unable to produce anything. We got one lucky turnover at the end of the first half, and we were able to get some points with a field goal. I'm curious to know your thoughts, and I don't know if you want to get into it later or not. Should Scott Frost have kicked some of those field goals instead of going for it on fourth down, maybe taking the points and tried to keep some momentum alive earlier in the game rather than later? Going into this Baylor game, and let me know if you agree, kind of gave me 2022. It was 2022 Louisville vibes, right? We're on the road at a Louisville team that was kind of down at the moment, and a lot of Louisville fans were out on their coach, and they were like, "Look, you guys are going to kill us," and we just laid an egg on the field and walked away with a loss from that game. I felt like this was a similar situation. Baylor's coach, Dave Aranda, you alluded to it, is kind of on the hot seat in Waco. A lot of fans want him, kind of exiting the building. And they had just come off a loss the previous week, and vibes were down for them, and we seemed to have all the momentum on our side. And even going into the game, in his post-game presser, Coach Frost mentioned that in the hotel, the team, like, vibes were high. Everybody was high on, they felt really good about their chances, and the team seemed to have a lot of energy, and then just, like you said, kaput on the field.
That's why I want to start, Brian. Like, of the things that are concerning to me, I have a list here of things that I was concerned about, and this was on it. I don't know where I'd rank it, but that's, man, I don't know. Like, he was adamant, like, this team was jacked up. They had energy. Yeah. This was the most ready to play I've seen them. And that first drive, I mean, they couldn't get off the field on third down, which is fine. Trigg catches a great pass in the end zone. I don't know who defends that. That's just a beautiful catch, a better play by the offense. You tip your cap, right? Then we go 3 and out, which is not surprising. Then we come down. Trigg makes another catch, which is probably pass interference, but not called. Then Antoine Jackson just stands there. Someone runs a slant in front of him for a touchdown, right? So I don't know, man. I don't know what happened on the bus ride over, but it's interesting that Frost got that so wrong. Even in the post-game press conference, multiple times, he literally looked perplexed. Like, I don't know what just happened. It's almost like you're in a car accident and you don't know, like, how you got hit. You get out of the car and you're like, what just happened? That's kind of the bewildering look he had on his face, which was like, I don't know what happened, man. Like, I think Trace asked him a question around, like, you said you worked on stuff in practice and you worked on some small things to get really better. Did you see that work? And he was like, he worked in practice.
Yeah.
He didn't work out here today. Like, that's concerning. I don't know, man. Like, I'm trying to be patient with this whole thing, right? I know that it's year 0, year 1, whatever, but, like, to be that far off from what your team is going to do, either A, don't admit that, or B, if that's the case, and I'm glad you say that, like, man, where was the disconnect? Like, what happened, like, from hotel to the field, Brian, that's how we showed up on Saturday?
Yeah, and I think if you ask, I mean, like you mentioned, I think Trace asked him that in the post-game presser, and he didn't have an answer for it. And I legitimately think he was being honest. I don't think that was any sort of coach speak.
Yeah.
And I appreciate him and the honesty, giving us that answer. I don't know if I learned yesterday afternoon. I believe Elo mentioned it, that there were some delays coming out of Orlando with the team traveling, and perhaps they did not get into Texas until sometime later than they had originally expected. So it was a quick turnaround at the hotel. I don't know if you heard that as well, but that was what I had heard. Elo had mentioned that at one point. So I don't know if that threw things out of whack, or if it was just one of those days where, you lay an egg on the field, you come in, you think you're prepared, you're ready to go, and we've mentioned that this UCF offense is not built to come from behind. So when they find themselves down 14-0 in the first quarter, considering the defense for UCF is only giving up an average of less than 20 points a game, and they're down 14 points, is there a little bit of panic in the back of the players' minds? We saw a couple of botched direct snaps to the running backs by the center. I don't know if that was on the center or if that was on the running backs, or it was just poor execution.
That whole sequence, Brian, reminds me of, like, playing Madden, like, where you try a play against your buddy and it doesn't work. You're like, I'm going to run it right again. Like, 2 plays later, we tried the exact same thing and it did not work. I'm going to need Scott Frost to take the direct running back snap out of the playbook.
We're still unable to get a couple of yards on fourth down. We go for it on fourth down. We turn the ball over on downs, give it back to Baylor. And at one point, we brought in a backup guard and tried to pass on fourth down to a backup guard. I believe Coach Frost mentioned in his presser that he was the guard was actually the fourth read. So he was the guy that was open at the time. But I mean, plays break down, that's going to happen. But it was a tough outing for Knights fans on Saturday. I was glad that it was a noon kick so we could get that out of the way and move on with our day.
Well, that was the first thing I had concern about, was just how off Frost was in terms of his assessment of his team's readiness to play.
Yeah.
They looked flat from the start. You could tell Baylor came out and they were hungry. They were fired up. They had gone through some stuff with their team. Offensive line coach leaves. I think they knew their coach was under fire. They took the ball first off the point toss.
Yes.
They were fired up, ready to go. And it was clear right off the jump that UCF was not quite prepared to match that intensity, not quite prepared to have that level of energy that Baylor had. So tip your cap to them. But you mentioned the other thing that was interesting. We're still on this we can't get 1 yard thing, man. Like this has been a season-long epidemic for the Knights. And we go from like, hey, let's run up the middle. We can't do that. Let's try to get cute. We're throwing to guards. Like we've got to figure out ways to get 1 yard. And I think that speaks to, someone asked again Frost in the post game, and he said something like, that's just effort. And that's just pad level, and that's just like getting it done. And the fact that we continue to talk week after week about like, oh, third and short, fourth and short. You know, you asked, should we have kicked it? Should we have gone for it? You know, again, it's Sunday when you and I are talking. I've had a bunch of NFL games on all day. NFL teams go for it on fourth down all the time now, right? Like that seems to be the new math, which is fine, which is great. Like if it works,
I'm sure their statistics tell them to go.
That tell you absolutely. There's analytics that tell you what to do. Everything in football these days. But the fact is, we can't get that yard. And I don't know if you factor that in to the analytics. Is it like, hey, minus 10, whatever the number is, like take 10 off the top of that, like, because that's not going to work. But it just continues to speak to this football team, Brian, and their struggles to do some of the basic, simple things. And at some point, here's the other thing I'm concerned about, and I'll get to my next one in a second. At some point in time, like we are who we are, and the things that we continue to struggle with, I don't really see us getting any better at. Like, have you seen any appreciable improvement in some of these areas? It seems like it's the exact same stuff over and over and over and over again. And again, I'm trying to be patient with Coach Frost and the staff because I know what they're up against, and our expectations should have been lower, obviously, when the year started. But to keep making the same stuff over and over again, like at some point you got to be like, hey, why does this keep happening? Why can't we solve these little things? Just look at your parent. Your kid keeps making the same mistake over and over again. At some point, like that's on you as a parent. Like, hey man, like tell your kid to stop doing that. Like at some point, like when should we be concerned about Frost and this coaching staff continuing to have the same stuff happen over and over again?
You know, one of the more frustrating things, I think, from a fan perspective is the fact that we have to watch Houston and Cincinnati having some relative success here in the Big 12. If you pulled up the stats coming into this week, I mean, they were, top 3 teams in the conference. BYU, Texas Tech up there as well. But Houston and Cincinnati were, they were undefeated in conference play, both, I believe. And they're in a little bit different situation than we are. I don't want to say that they have a head start because we joined the conference at the same time as them, but we've also had to dump our coach after a few seasons and start over again. So there is a roadmap for us to have success in the conference, but we've got to remind ourselves that this is, I mean, Frost hasn't even been back in Orlando a full year yet. He came in, mid-December. And it's now November. So, full roster turnover for the most part, 60 plus new players. We hear it all the time. We've got to be patient. I mean, like I said, coming into the season, I pegged us at 5-7. We're kind of on track for that still. So from an outsider's perspective, you probably shouldn't be surprised. I mean, we were pegged to be at the bottom of the conference in the preseason. Yeah. I know we didn't get a preseason poll, but everybody kind of expected us to be at the bottom. Perhaps we let some of the excitement from whooping up on West Virginia and North Carolina get to our heads a little bit. We are fans for a reason, of course, but we're going to have to stay the course. And I mean, maybe this is a blessing in disguise. Scott Frost does have an additional year on his contract on the line if he makes a bowl game. So, that's, a couple $1 million in his pocket if he can find a way to get 2 more wins out of the remaining 4. But we're just going to have to kind of, I think, take our lumps at this point and get through this season.
Next thing that concerns me, the continuation of the offense shooting themselves in the foot over and over and over again, bro. I decided to chart this, and I went.
Oh boy,
UCF had 8 penalties called during the game. Right, not a terrible amount, right? I mean, like it's their average, I think, was 7-9, so the rated average, right? 8
they're all,
right?
And those were all on the offense.
All on the offense. I wrote them all down here, so I'm going to take one off the board because it was a delay a game before a punt, which sometimes teams do to get extra yardage, right? So I'm going to take that one off the board just to be fair, right? That's 7 penalties left for the offense, right? Here's what they end up being: 3 false starts, 1 delay of game, 1 motion penalty, 1 hold, 1 chop block. Take the hold and the chop block off the table. Well, again, I don't love those. You could call holding in every play. You could probably call any number of blocking infractions every play, right? So if you take those 2 off the board, just for fun, you have 3 false starts, you have 1 delay a game, and you have 1 motion penalty. And most of these, Brian, occur in the 4th quarter. Right. And so it's continuation of not only are we doing the thing that shoots us in the foot, but Frost said it a couple of weeks ago at a press conference. It's not just the penalties, it's when they're happening. I think it was Cincinnati. I think it was post-game Cincinnati. He said the same thing again. We're having the same issues over and over and over again. Illegal motion. It's a 2nd straight game that we played on the road where we don't have somebody lined up correctly. And because of that, they can't run out for a pass. And we had with a big pass play and that gets called back. Like, I feel like that's formation 101. Like, that's day one. Like, hey, man, like, you got to be up on the line. You got to be up. Like, some of these things are formation 101. Delay of game penalties. Again, we're obviously just not getting in out of the huddle quickly enough. False starts. I mean, again, I assume we practice this stuff. But it's just, I'm apoplectic at it's the continuation of the same stuff over and over and over again. And every week Frost goes, well, we got to get it fixed, man. We just got to get it. We got to get it fixed. It's a young team. And again, I get all that. But at some point, like, then we're just not a good football team, or we're just not coaching these guys the right way. And maybe both of those things are true, by the way. But it's the same stuff over and over again.
Yeah, it's no doubt it's got to be a combination of all the above, right? I think that a lot of these guys are, we knew for the most part, this offense was mostly untested, right? We had Miles Montgomery coming back. We had Ja'Cory Brown coming back, and Taven has played some ball. But for the most part, a lot of our receivers, very untested, younger guys. You brought up the penalty where one of the wide receivers wasn't lined up correctly and was ineligible downfield, caused the penalty and stalled the offense. That was Chris Domerkamp. And if you recall, he was the guy that had 2 touchdowns 2 games ago and was, had me calling the wide receivers phenomenal in that game. So,
that's on you.
Yeah, that did not age
that didn't age well.
No. It did not age well, which is fine. I don't care. But this, as you were saying, this team is young. And I think that a lot of these growing pains on offense, these guys are having to gel together. I mean, just a few weeks ago, we were complaining about the offensive line being the problem. And while they're still having some of these false start problems and stuff like that, we're starting to see some of these other penalties as well. Guys aren't lining up correctly. We're jumping before we should. The ball's not being snapped correctly to the running back or the quarterback, whoever it's supposed to be. A lot of these mishaps that I guess the coaches are not seeing in practice. And I don't know if that's a situation where practice isn't mirroring real life.
Frost touched on this postgame a little bit, not to cut you off. He touched on this postgame. I think Trace or somebody asked him that question, and he said in practice, like, we run it the right way. But we get to the game, and it looks just a little different. Like,
one of the guys lines up differently.
He's over here a little bit, or this other guy, the other hand's on the ground. Like, and it's just these little nuances and tweaks. And he's saying that when they run it the way that they run it, it works perfectly. But as soon as they get to a game and something's different, it's like, oh my, what do we do now? Oh, let's just throw it over somebody's head. Like, it seems like they don't know what to do. Which again, is that coaching? Is that just nerves? Is that just young players? Is that being on the road? All the above? Like, I don't know.
It's gotta be all the above. It
seems like Frost doesn't have the answer either right now, which is the unfortunate thing.
One of the things that I noticed was, and credit to Baylor, obviously they were, their team was hungry. This was homecoming for their team. I did not get a good view of how full the stands were. I was listening to the radio broadcast pregame, and Mark Daniels had mentioned that It was not a full stadium, perhaps 2/3 full. For those that don't know, their stadium is about the same size as Bright House. Bright House. Wow, I'm really aging
Wow.
myself. The Bounce House.
Back in the day when the Bright House was here.
Yeah, wow. 45,000-ish is the Baylor Stadium. So it's comparable to the Bounce House size-wise. So I don't know how loud it was, but at one point you could see Taven.
Attendance 40,212 is the announced attendance.
Okay, so you got to consider it was probably at least 35 if they announced 40.
Yeah.
Again, I wasn't there. I was watching on TV, but I mean, there were several times where Taven, you could see him trying to hear the play calls perhaps in his helmet and was struggling to do so. I don't know if that was the noise from the stadium or, being on the road, the jitters, whatever. But even the announcers on TV had mentioned, we're running out of time here in this fourth quarter, and UCF is still in a huddle. Like, they're not showing any urgency. The offense is not showing any urgency to get out there, get up the line, and snap the ball. And time was ticking off the clock. And the game was over at that point. But that's those little things that you start to question, Adam. Are those things that you can be coaching into your players, or is it just, a young offense? I think at this point we know what kind of offense we have, right? We're 8 games into the season now. I don't think things are going to get much better from an offensive standpoint. It's just going to matter as do the guys show up and play with a level of intensity we want them to? And I don't think that perhaps obviously they didn't want to lose that game, but as you had mentioned, Baylor did seem like they were more motivated. And one of the things that I saw was a lot of personal fouls on the Baylor defense. They were fired up, and say whatever you want about the PI or the personal foul calls that Baylor took. It didn't hurt them. All I saw was a team that wanted to win and was maybe going to push some players around in order to get that victory.
Well, I think what's now apparent on offense, and again, this is what this team does, and I'm guilty of it. Maybe you feel like you're guilty of it, Brian. I don't want to speak for you, but we do something positive, West Virginia, and we go, hey, all right, are we figuring this out? Like, hey, Dummer can't, hey, receiver, like we all kind of buy into the Kool-Aid.
We're good now.
We want to feel good again. Hey, we lost to Kansas, but man, we were in that. Like, you take the positives because that's what you want to do. This was the first game where I turned it on and I was like, oh, this is not good. Like we are not good right now. And I think the thing that was interesting on the offense is I think it's very apparent. If UCF tries to run something unique or exotic, a little trickeration, if you will, it seems like bad things happen, right? Ball snapped over somebody's head, somebody's going to false start, right? Like, you try to get a little cute, and we seem to have challenges kind of executing that, right? You try to go tempo. We seem to have challenges with that. That's where you get false starts. Like, it seems like this offense needs to huddle, needs to take every second off the play clock, needs everything to kind of work out perfectly for them to be able to get a pass play or a run play to hit. And so the UCF fast and sort of the fun feels like this team just isn't able to pull that off right now, at least consistently enough. And I think that's what we're left with on offense is, kind of cross your fingers and hope this one works and hope all 11 guys do the right thing. And it seems like more times than not, especially on the road, they're not doing that. I think what was really funny this week too is you talked about, maybe falling into the trap, drinking the Kool-Aid. I know Bailey and Christian got a lot of crap from people because they called this an unlikely win. And why would it be unlikely? Why can't we go beat Baylor? Baylor's not any good, right? We've won 2 games on the road our entire time in the Big 12, right? Like, in most cases this year when we're on the road, we peed on our leg, Brian. This is not a team that does good on the road. Like, and this is kind of that stark reminder of like, this is why it's unlikely. This is why every week in the Big 12, things like this are unlikely. And again, maybe shame on me, shame on everyone with the Suns. Like, we keep talking about like, hey, things are looking good. Hey, we win this one. Hey, we should beat Baylor. They're terrible. And then we just didn't look like we belonged on the field. And I think you said it earlier. Hopefully the guys went back in the locker room and were like, all right, let's flush this one. 24-hour rule. We got a space game at home against Houston on Friday. Let's rock that place out. And we'll be talking again in a couple of days, Brian, and we're going to feel good about it again. But there was not a lot of positivity that you could take away from that game.
Yeah, I mean, the offense is running out of excuse at this point, right? Oh, we were banged up. Oh,
65 new players.
Yeah, 65 new players. We were on the road. I have a question for you, Adam. Do you know when the last time UCF won a road conference game in the Big 12 was?
Was against TCU 2024.
TCU, over a year ago now. So it's been over a year since UCF has won a conference game on the road. Sticking with the offense, there was one other thing I want to talk about. Did you happen to notice which running back got the start against Baylor on Saturday?
I did see that. I saw Jaden Nixon started at running back, and Paul Rubel did not start at whatever tackle, left tackle. Owen Spell did. I don't know if that's was that just a package they had? It was interesting to see how that. Usually they script those plays, so I assume they had something up their sleeve. But of course, obviously, we did nothing good with that play. By the way,
with Paul Rubel, Coach Frost mentioned in the postgame that he was still questionable and was still banged up, and they hope to have him back soon. So my guess is that they felt more comfortable going with Spell. But going back to Jaden Nixon, got the nod. That's kind of one of the things that a lot of people have been clamoring for, is to see more out of, let's get Jaden more involved in the offense. We've seen, some good stuff out of Miles, but we also have Jaden Nixon. Let's use him. He's an explosive guy. So he gets the start. Do you know how many plays he played? How many snaps he got in the game against Baylor?
I think he only had 5 carries, if I remember that correctly. So give me 8.
He had 3.
3.
He got 3 carries. He got 3 carries in the entire game. Taven Jackson, our quarterback, had more carries at 5 than Jaden Nixon did.
That's great.
So despite starting the game as the starting running back for the Knights, he gets 3 catches or 3 carries, less than the quarterback. Now, they were using him for punt returns, but that doesn't really count if you're trying to, consistently put an offense on the field and put some points on the board. He is an explosive player, so I don't have a problem with him returning kickoffs and punts. But why are you going to start Jaden Nixon and then only give him 3 carries?
Yeah,
it makes no sense.
Well, again, this is one of the first games where I sat back and I said to myself, okay, what is Frost doing? A couple of the games, I remember being in North Carolina, and I felt like he pitched a perfect game that day. I felt like he called a great game, had everything set up, and had everything kind of figured out. This was a game where I kind of what are we doing here? The 2 running back snaps that were within 3 plays of each other that didn't work either time. That was interesting, right? We don't seem to have Dwayne Thomas. We're using as a Swiss Army knife, and 8 catches, 77 yards. He obviously had, I think he had the longest catch of 29.
He was our entire offense.
It seemed like we were trying to go to him everywhere, but DJ Black, we usually just say go long and hope we get a pass interference penalty. Wade and Charles, I think he had 1 target, if I looked this correctly. And so we just haven't established that receiving core. Dylan Wade kind of is that guy over the middle. We kept doing that thing where Dylan Wade would go 5 steps, turn around, and we throw it to him, and it worked. Yeah. We got 6-7 yards, and then we'd get the 3rd and 1 and not convert it. Right. It just offensively, I asked this question in the preseason, and I may be doing a misremembering of this, but I felt like we used to think that Scott Frost was an offensive genius. I feel like that's what we were man, this guy runs offense like nobody's business. And that's when he leaves UCF in 2017, goes to Nebraska, things obviously fall apart. I haven't seen that offensive genius quite yet come back. And is it the pieces he has to use? Is it outdated scheme? Is it outdated thinking? Is it just he's not preparing the team? This is the first time where I really sat back and was all right, I was all in on Frost, bringing it back, memorabilia, let's go, let's do this. And now it's kind of what are we doing on Saturday, Scott? What were we calling here? What was the game plan going in here?
You know what? I don't know, maybe it's the copium, but I've got to give him the benefit of the doubt that he's going to get this thing moving. Fingers crossed. There are a lot of parallels to our 2016 season when Frost came in here. I think that if we look back on that season, and again, that's almost a decade ago now, but if we look back on that season, there was a lot of frustrating games where we, as an offense, even under Scott Frost's tutelage, continued to find ways to shoot ourselves in the foot. Mackenzie Milton, who was a freshman quarterback at the time, was throwing a lot of picks in those games. Fans weren't very high on him. So I think that there's going to be some of those growing pains while the offensive staff tries to figure out what this team is and what kind of parts we need in order for them to put together an offense that they're comfortable running. I have to imagine that this game, especially for the offense and especially for Scott Frost, who, as you said, is an offensive-minded guy, has to be frustrated and has to take this as a wake-up call and go back and say, whoa, okay, we need to really evaluate what we're doing here. Is it the play calls? He's mentioned a couple times now that, I could have been more creative, or I could have done this differently, or I could have done that differently. So hopefully there's some introspective thought going on there, and the coaches are looking at themselves and looking at what they can do differently to close out the remaining games that we have on the season. Because, not putting a single touchdown into the end zone has got to be frustrating for Scott Frost.
What has to happen, Brian? This has to be the bookend of bad for this season. Like this has to be rock bottom. Like they've got 4 games to go. This has to be. I know you're looking at me like Adam. I don't know if I would say that.
We still have Texas Tech and BYU.
This has to be the bookend for bad. Like if you want to call right now West Virginia the bookend for good, this has to be the bookend for bad. This has to be as bad as it's going to get this season. The hope is, as you said, they get into the office there at the Wayne Dench and they start going, all right, well that didn't work. Where are we going to go from here? I thought Dave Aranda said something really interesting post-game. I don't know enough football to know what he means by this, but I'm going to read you the quote. And the way I read this quote is telling, I think, but I want to hear how you read this quote. Okay. He was asked expectations coming off of UCF's bye, what they thought of UCF. And he said, I talked to Scott Frost pregame. They're a tough team to play because they are a game plan outfit. And so they're going to game plan for you. And I take that to mean, are we running a system, or are we saying, hey, we're playing Baylor, we think we can do X, Y, Z against that team, so let's go do X, Y, Z. And maybe that's really simplistic, and I need someone smarter than you and I at football to tell me this, but I'm thinking to myself, if I say, all right, hey, I know how to beat Brian Peterson, I have to go do X, Y, Z. And if I go into the game and I'm dead wrong, what it's going to look like is 30-3, right? What it's going to look like is what you saw on Saturday. So I wonder what that means. I have a chance this week. I'll talk to Latavius Murray. We'll have somebody on the live show, but they're a game plan outfit. They're going to plan for you, meaning that they look at Baylor's tape and say, okay, we can run this, we can do this, we can do this. And then is this the result of them getting that dead wrong? Did Baylor do something different? Like I'm really curious, and I'm wondering what you think when you hear that comment. Again, I know you're hearing it for the first time. You're trying to digest it. A game plan outfit. They're going to game plan for you.
To me, my initial thought is every coach should be game planning for the team that they're going to be facing on the field that week, right? That's part of preparing for the week and for the game that's coming up. Is you have to scout out your team, go look at the tape that they put on the field so far this year, and figure out, okay, where are they weak on defense? Where are they weak on offense? Where can we exploit them? So I would think that is a pretty natural thing for all coaches to do. Now, I don't know if that means that, Scott Frost, I don't know if he's referring to Scott Frost himself as an offensive mind, because you got to consider that Dave Aranda is a more defensive minded guy. So perhaps he's looking at it from a defensive perspective, comparing himself to Scott Frost offense. So, from an offensive perspective, they're going to attack the Baylor defense in areas that they think they can win matchups on. That would be my thought. But that's a pretty standard process for any coach, I would think, in the game of football.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I just wonder. There's some teams that run their system, that run their scheme, and you have to figure that out. I just wonder what that means. Because again, if you try to analyze where I can beat Baylor, and you're dead wrong, what it ends up to be is 30-3. You know what's funny though, Brian? That you just said this, and have we played? Like I don't look at Baylor and say, wow, man, that defense really, like, I looked at this game and said, man, we are just inept on offense. Like, and I'm sure Baylor did some good things on defense, right? But like, I don't think we've played like a defensive juggernaut yet. Like, we played some good teams who have some good players on defense, but I didn't look at this and be like, man, Baylor's just all over us. Like, we can't get it. Like, I looked at this like, oh, false start. Oh, threw it out of bounds. Oh, 4th and 3. We ran a 2-yard route again. Like, I looked at a lot of it as like, I don't know that Baylor did anything that we went to ourselves. Like, man, they're just all over us today, versus we couldn't get out of our own way for most of the game.
Statistics wise, Baylor is not a very good offense in the conference. And that was kind of one of the points that I was using to talk myself into the chance that we were going to win this game, was that, our offense is okay. Well, at least I thought it was okay coming into this game. And the Baylor defense hasn't been great. So, that's a matchup that we're hoping is going to, play out in our favor. And then the UCF defense has been playing very well. And the offense for Baylor is also pretty good. So maybe that's a decent matchup there. And, if you're comparing apples to oranges, I guess it didn't really work out that way. But, one of the funny things is that when you talk about Scott Frost being, somebody that's lauded as an offensive genius, I'd push back and say a lot of people say that about Gus Malzahn as well, right? And maybe that hasn't aged as well. One of the things that I trust about Scott Frost over Gus Malzahn, and we've talked about this ad nauseum already, was that Gus was the guy that was going to try and fit the square peg into the round hole, right? He was not going to adjust. So maybe that's what Dave Aranda was looking at, trying to say that they're going to play to the strengths that they believe, and they will adjust as you adjust. And they're going to put something together that's not just what we're good at, like Gus Malzahn used to do. Hey, we're going to be good at what we do, and that's what we're going to run, versus Scott Frost is going to take a look and say, how can we adjust and play and get the best, opportunity to win based on scheming ahead of time. That would be my guess. And I would trust that Scott Frost is able to kind of adjust his offense a little bit more than, say, a Gus Malzahn can.
Again, this is, and I'm not trying to make it seem like the sky is falling here, but this is the first game where, you put a scale of concern or whatever, right? Like this is hashtag noticing. Like this, I'm not saying there's a problem. I'm not saying fire somebody. I'm not like hashtag noticing. Like there's some things you're like, all right, that didn't feel so good. And maybe it's a one, we all have a bad day, right? So hashtag noticing in this one. I did say we're gonna do something positive. I don't know if I have a lot positive. I will say something at least nice. And I'm gonna get killed for this, Brian, but I feel like we should let the defense have a pass. They've carried this team all year long, right? They have kept us in ball games. When the offense wasn't moving, the defense has kept us in. Yeah, we get in a 14-0 hole at that point, right? And at some point, it gets away from that. But I don't look at
14-0 with an asterisk. There were those no calls.
Couple of no calls. I want to give the defense some grace here. They've kept us in every single game. This is maybe their worst performance, and probably is their worst performance that we've seen this year, right? And they've been such a stout unit for them, right? I don't want to blame all this on the defense. They did not play well. I think they know that. I think obviously they have to play better, but I want to give the defense a little bit of a grace period on this one and hope that they can turn it around. One thing was very telling that I did notice, Brian. Obviously, we know Sincere Edwards is out now for the season. He had surgery. We know Horace Lockett obviously has been out for a while. When you didn't have Malachi Lawrence or Nigel Lee Kelly in the game, UCF had a hard time getting some pressure on the quarterback. I think RJ Jackson had one where he came right up the middle and Sawyer Robertson just spun out of it and threw a pass or whatever. But it was tough to get pressure without those two guys on the edge. And I think you're starting to see that line kind of wear down a little bit and get thinner and thinner and thinner. And so hopefully maybe some extra juice, some guys getting some more reps at some point will kind of help out there. But and it was telling without a couple of those guys that we're now seeing starting to feel their loss on defense, Nigel Leak and Malachi, without them in the game, it was tough to get some pressure on the quarterback.
If we're going to stick on the positives, I would say that yes, those first two touchdowns hurt, right? That put us in a hole and we weren't able to dig out of it on offense. But after those two touchdowns by Baylor, and again, I'll mention those no calls because I do think that they played a big role in Baylor getting in to the end zone and getting those two go-ahead touchdowns. After that, the defense really did lock in. And yes, maybe they were giving up some larger, bigger chunk plays, 15, 20 yards on defense. They did hold the Baylor offense, which is fairly prolific, to 3 field goals up until the fourth quarter. And by then you're tired and the game is over and, the offense isn't producing. So, what kind of effect does that have on a mindset of a defense? But, they did, once those 2 touchdowns were out of the way, they didn't crumble, they didn't give up, and they held them to just field goals. I don't know if that's Baylor kind of taking their foot off the gas or if that was the defense making some adjustments and making big plays. But yeah, they kept them between the red zones, right? They kept the offense for Baylor between the red zones and held them to field goals, which is a positive.
Yeah, I think the defense has kind of been a little bit like that, though, a little bend but don't break-ish for a lot of the year, particularly and this game may be different. we get that fourth down conversion, right? We go in and get going for 7. Right now it's 14-7 at that point.
Yeah.
Momentum swings differently if the offense can do some stuff too. So while again, I think the defense is probably going to tell you this is their worst performance, 417 total yards that Baylor, put up on the day. And by statistics, I think this probably is their worst performance. I'm going to give them a little grace on this one. I'm not. I think they've kept UCF in games throughout the entire season. No way where LS misses a field goal. I'm going to give him a little grace on this one too. Although I would have liked to have seen him hit that, but at the end of the day, what does that really matter?
It was a 50+ yard field goal, wasn't it?
He makes those up, Brian. That's his range that we heard. But again, my bigger concern that I'm willing to continue to look at. I understand it's a young team, but can we stop doing the same stuff wrong over and over again? And I think that's the thing to look out for as they go play at home space game against Houston. Can they clean up the things? Because every week we keep hearing, hey, we're going to clean it up. We're going to clean it up. We're going to clean it up. Can we finally do that? And I think that's going to be the key. But I think this season is the roller coaster we thought it was going to be, right? And every week it's yin and yang between, hey, we're not so bad. Maybe we're good. Oh my God, we're terrible. Like this is if cocky UCF fan is just waiting to come out, this team is ready to squash all your hopes week in and week out because they are definitely, I guess, Halloween style. They're Jekyll and Hyde, Brian. Sometimes they're wearing a mask.
One of the funny things that we haven't talked about yet was the fact that somebody asked him, and it might have been Trace, but somebody asked him, how does having this bye week affect you as a coach and as a team, preparing for a game to go on the road like this? And Scott Frost mentioned that sometimes the bye week is good and it's bad. It's good because you get extra time to rest and, you kind of get away from football and you get to clear your head. But at the same time, too much time can be a bad thing. And you can start to overthink things. And I wonder if we saw that out of the offense, whether it was trying to be cute to throw to a guard on a fourth down that we needed, or if it was the direct snaps to the running backs that wasn't working. We hadn't seen that all year long, I don't think. So I wonder if that was a result of the bye week and us overthinking things and trying to get too cute. And perhaps there was some rust, with the offense. They hadn't played a game in over a week. So just little things like that you find ways to shoot yourself in the foot, and that it adds up over time. I'm curious to see how we're going to come out this week on a short week leading up to this Friday night game against a Houston team that's going to be looking to bounce back after their performance against West Virginia.
I mean, if Scott Frost says they look good, are you going to believe him? I mean, at this point, does he even know who's on the team, Brian? I don't even know.
Can we go back to when he wasn't telling us who the quarterback was? And we're going to have to wait and see.
That was actually more fun. Yeah, that was actually.
Yeah.
By the way, like Taven Jackson looked like after a while he was struggling a little bit. Looked like he took a couple of hits there. Hopefully his health is okay. I don't want him popping up in the injury report again. You can tell he's got some big giant thing in his left shoulder where obviously he's got the injury. A couple of design quarterback runs, which I don't know, Scott, maybe not do that.
No.
Maybe bring Davi in if you're going to do something like that, or not that we could snap it to a running back, but a direct snap to the running back or something like that. Like maybe keep the hits off.
That our quarterback room is already banged up. So can we not be running Taven and him taking these unnecessary hits? I mean, because if he gets hurt, who do we have left? Cam was out for this game. Taven said he was okay, but to your point, you said that there's one for me. He was wearing the thing on his left shoulder, this shoulder, and there was a couple times where he got hit and was slow to get up, and I kept thinking, get up. We're down to Davi at this point if he gets hurt. Jacurri
was off the injury report. Presumably he was okay. I mean, he wasn't on the injury report. So
yeah, I mean, I guess we're back to Jacurri if that's the case. So we got Jacurri and Davi, untested, and one struggles to complete passes from time to time. So let's pump the brakes, Scott. Let's keep our quarterback standing upright and not have him running the ball more than you've got for Jaden Nixon.
Yeah, well, I was actually surprised he kept Taven in. I thought at some point maybe he would just put Davi in there. I think Taven got back on the field with like 8 minutes to go in the game. We were down 30-3 at that point. Like I was surprised that he actually even kept Taven in there, which maybe he shouldn't have, because then Taven threw a pick like 2 plays later. But
I was wondering if they were going to pull him and, kind of say this game is over. But my assumption is Scott Frost said, no, keep the offense out there. Keep the ones out there. They need to fix this. They obviously need the reps.
Yeah.
Injuries be damned.
There was one positive. Well, not I don't say positive because I don't. This isn't good for somebody, but there was a play where Jabari Brooks was called for holding, and the way the TV broadcast had shown it, like they zoomed in on him right as he kind of walked back to the huddle like they always do, and as they were showing him, guard Memelar came off the bench and replaced him, and then Jabari Brooks were running off the field. So I don't know if that was a direct reflection of, hey, you have a holding penalty, now come off the field. Now, again, I'm not saying that's going to solve holding, right? Like, hey, I might not play if I hold. Like, I don't know how that solves things. But again, at some point, I hate to keep saying the same stuff over and over again. But how do we get past all the the usual issues that we've had, Brian? But space game. Do you, Brian Peterson, believe in space game magic?
I don't have a reason to not believe in space game magic. I mean, it's worked for us so far. So history's on our side.
If Dylan Risk can benefit from space game magic, anybody can, right?
True.
Like that's
JRP, what he put up 70 on Temple that 1 year.
He did
22, I think. So I mean, there is something to be said about the space game magic. I mean, obviously a lot of it's superstition, but I think that at the very least, players get excited to wear the Knots gear, right? I see you've got your Canaveral blue Suns hat on. I've got my Squeezer hat on here. So it is fun, right? I think that it gets the fans excited. It gets the players excited. So from a Magic perspective, you can't argue with that at the very least.
Let me make a prediction now. Sell out on Friday. Yes or no?
Not a chance.
Whoa.
Not a chance. It's a Friday night game.
It is.
UCF fans are a fickle group. And coming off of a Baylor loss where a lot of people are upset on a Friday night, people are going to have activities, weddings to go to, and kids are in school, and we just did Halloween. I mean, I will be there. I believe you will be there. We will be in attendance, but my guess is we won't see a sellout. They haven't announced the sellout.
I don't remember if they did or they didn't. They announced these things so far in advance. I forget to go back and look at this point, but we'll see, I guess. This is an opportunity space game. This is second to last home game of the year. Obviously, UCF has contest coming up at Texas Tech, at BYU. So this is the second to last opportunity to see the Knights. We don't know the time of the Oklahoma State kick just yet. It'll be senior night. I can't imagine that's going to be a night game, Brian. That feels like a 6:15 kickoff on ESPN 75 or whatever random channel may or may not be available.
Maybe we'll get TNT again. That was pretty good.
Whatever channel won't be available on YouTube TV.
The CW, like the ACC.
We might get the CW at this point. We already deserve the CW. But either way, Brian, it's hopefully going to be a good week. We'll have all the coverage here on the Sons of UCF. We'll have Sons of UCF Live, Pegasus Podcast. Ron the Kingdom's back this week, and whatever else we can scrounge up around here. So, everybody, we appreciate you tuning in and listening. Sorry if it was super negative. Sorry if we said the same things over and over and over again. And hopefully, UCF will make us all look like geniuses and come out and win on Friday. Until then, everybody, take care of yourselves and each other. Good nights.
Charge on.